Today, we are talking about what might be one of the biggest tech stories of 2026. It's about the absolutely explosive IPO of a Chinese AI chip company called Shanghai Biren. Now, this isn't just some story about stock prices. Nope. This is really a window into the huge tech war brewing between the US and China, and it could be signaling a massive shift in how the whole world gets its computer chips. All right, let's get into it.
So get this. On its very first day of trading, Shanghai Biren stock shot up by nearly 120%. I mean, to put that into perspective, a really successful IPO might see, a 20, maybe 30% gain on a good day? This was 4 times that. A number like this it's a giant flashing sign that something much, much bigger is going on here.
So that's the big question, right? How did a company that most people had never even heard of suddenly become the talk of the town with a massive $717 million IPO? Well, the answer is a wild mix of perfect timing, high-stakes geopolitics, and a whole lot of national pride.
Okay, so first things first, let's really unpack that incredible IPO. What on earth was fueling this fire?
It was really a perfect storm. For starters, the global AI market is just white hot right now, and investors are falling over themselves to find the next big thing. Second, you have China, which is this enormous and now increasingly walled-off market for AI chips. Third, think about it. There just aren't many publicly traded companies that give you a direct piece of China's homegrown chip industry. That creates a huge scarcity value. And last but not least, you've got this wave of what some are calling patriotic investing from everyday folks in China who are just really eager to back their own homegrown tech champions. All right, so who exactly is this company at the center of it all? Let's meet Shanghai Biren Technology.
You know, Biren was only founded back in 2019, so it's a pretty young company. But its mission? It's crystal clear. They design high-performance GPUs, those are graphics processing units, specifically for artificial intelligence. Their goal, plain and simple, is to become China's version of Nvidia, who is, the undisputed king of AI chips right now.
And they're not just a company with a plan on a PowerPoint slide. They have a flagship product out there, the BR100 series. Now sure, they still have a bit of a technology gap with the absolute best chips from the US, but Biren says these GPUs are super competitive for a lot of the AI tasks that Chinese companies are desperate to run. So the key takeaway is they have a real product that's in the market.
But here's the thing, you absolutely cannot understand Biren's story without looking at the geopolitical background. I mean, this company's success is literally being forged in the fire of the US-China chip war.
And that whole conflict really boils down to 2 huge opposing goals. On one side, you've got the United States, which is putting in place these really strict export bans to try and stop China from getting its hands on advanced AI chips. And on the other side, you've got China's response, which is a massive state-funded push to become completely self-sufficient. Biren exists right at the heart of that collision.
And this quote just captures China's entire strategy perfectly. Faced with the threat of being cut off from the world's best tech, Beijing's answer wasn't to back down, it was to double down. The government is pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into its own semiconductor industry, and companies like Biren are the ones set to benefit most from that historic level of investment.
But of course, it's not all smooth sailing. This kind of ambition comes with some enormous challenges. Biren is trying to break into a market that is absolutely dominated by giants.
And the scale of that challenge, it's just immense. I mean, look at this. Globally, Nvidia controls something like 85% of the AI chip market. It's not just their technology, it's their software ecosystem. It creates this incredibly powerful barrier that makes it almost impossible for a startup to compete head-on.
So what's Biren's secret weapon? Well, it's not trying to win a global fight, at least not right now. Its real weapon is China's massive and protected domestic market. As those US export rules get tighter, Chinese tech giants, think Alibaba, Tencent, Baidu, they have no choice but to find homegrown alternatives. And Biren is perfectly positioned to fill that critical gap.
So what does all this mean if you're looking at this as an investment? Well, the bull case is pretty straightforward. You're betting on a government-backed champion that has a huge protected market all to itself. But the bear case is just as serious. You're paying a crazy valuation after that 120% pop, and you're taking on a ton of geopolitical, regulatory, and frankly, technological risk. This is a classic high-risk, high-reward situation.
All right, let's zoom out one last time. Beyond just this one company's IPO, what is the Biren story telling us about the new world we're living in?
The signals are pretty clear. First, this AI boom is not just a US thing, it's global and it's speeding up. Second, we're seeing the chip supply chains start to fracture. We're moving away from one global system towards multiple regional ones. Third, this IPO proves there is a ton of cash inside China's domestic market, all ready to fund these big ambitions. And finally, you should probably expect to see a lot more AI hardware companies going public in 2026 to try and ride this wave of investor excitement.
And all of that leaves us with this one big, critical question. The rise of companies like Biren, which are fueled by national strategy, really suggests we're entering a new era, one of technological separation. So is the world of a single, interconnected global chip market, the one that really powered the last 30 years of innovation, is that now a thing of the past? That's something we're all going to be watching very, very closely.